car's literally out of gas. You gotta be shitting me. So this isn't the most exciting thing in the world, but it's borderline life-changing. I spend every bit of 50, 60 hours sitting in front of a computer, and the one thing that's made that somewhat tolerable is having a dual monitor setup. But obviously something like this is not very practical for tuning cars unless you're remote tuning from an office or something like that. So I have a dual monitor setup in my office, in my garage, at my shop, and even at my parents' house. I can't live without having two monitors. So what I'm going to show you in this video is a very inexpensive, but more importantly, very practical monitor that you can take with you, can set up in a car, around a car, at the racetrack, whatever the case may be. And the best part about it is you don't even need to power it up or plug it in to an outlet or anything like that. It just gets powered directly from the computer. Let's take a look. So this video isn't sponsored or anything. I paid for this just like anybody else would, but my first impressions of this thing were actually really good. What you saw the unboxing, I've been using this for a while, so it comes packaged a little bit nicer, but I know a lot of you guys don't like Apple stuff, but you can't argue that the quality, the feel of not only the product, but the box as well is always way nicer than everything else. And this has a very Apple feel to it. So it comes with all the cables, connectors, and everything that you need. And also this magnetic case, that is really nice. And it's super lightweight, and it's every bit just as thin as my phone. Probably, yeah, it's even a little bit thinner than the laptop itself. But without a doubt, the best part about this, a second monitor is nothing exciting, but the fact that this powers itself up through one USB cable and then also displays through the same USB cable has been awesome. And I actually, if I wasn't holding this right now, I'd be using this for the camera as well. So I've been using this thing nonstop. Another thing I really like about this is I don't leave my house without my book bag. It has like a laptop spot. It just fits right in there, and now it comes with me everywhere I go. So there's 100 cables in the box, but I use the USB-C to USB-C, and it powers everything up and everything works. Now this, if your laptop's super old, you might not have this option, but there is HDMI, and I think there's normal USB on here as well, but either way, this works for me. So here's sort of the magic of it. You get one cable, you plug it in. No additional power cables or anything like that. And it just works. And you might have to configure it depending on which side of the computer you have the monitor on. If you set it up wrong, you'd have to drag it left to get over to the right side of the screen. But let me show you the magic of why I like this so much. As you can see, we have Holley software open on this screen. And traditionally, to look at a data log, you're either kind of going back and forth like this, or sometimes you might even do like a split screen like this. Either way, it just never feels natural or right. But now that you have two monitors, you just drag it over to this screen, maximize it. You can pull up a fuel table. Now you can look at both of these things at the same time. And hopefully you can see, it doesn't look like you can. But as we move the cursor around here, you can see we get this bubble, and as we move throughout the log, we can watch all of that change. You should be able to see the other monitor in the background there. It just makes it a billion times easier to see what you're doing. And then if you want to go kind of up one level with that, we can also open up the dual pane. So now we can see the fuel table, the fuel graph, and an entire data log all at the same time. Another thing I find this really useful for is, obviously all the Holley systems have the comparison feature that is extremely helpful, but sometimes you want to be able to look at two things at once or view it a little bit differently. So on this monitor we have Terminator X software open. Now we can open up either another version of Terminator X, or in this case we have like a Dominator file here. No idea what this file is. But now we're able to look at both files at the same time, and just in case you weren't aware, is you can actually copy from this screen or this instance of the software and paste it over into this instance of the software. So that makes it really helpful, really easy, especially if you're trying to do something like change a map sensor and you kind of need to be able to see. So you can take like this row at this manifold pressure and then paste it over into a different row at the same manifold pressure over on like this software. So if you've never used two monitors, this might not seem all that impressive, but I guarantee you after you try it one time, you're gonna have a really hard time going back. Now the one downside to this is it's a little bit impractical to have inside of the car, but what I've noticed is it seems 90% of people are driving the car, logging, pulling the log out of the car, and then viewing it somewhere else. So you can either set it up on a table, a bench in the garage, or even you can throw it on the roof. We'll take a look here in a second of it up and running real time. But with all that being said, I have absolutely used this on the dyno inside of the car. You just need to kind of rig something up to set it on top of. And I guess you could always get some sort of a suction cup mount or something along the lines of that to mount it temporarily. I wouldn't recommend keeping this in the car all the time. If you're gonna do that though, just make sure that you're not mounting it to the windshield because it is pretty big and you'll lose a lot of visibility. Depending on how nice the car is, this is another option for you. If it, again, it's a temporary thing. A table would be a whole lot easier. And this car's enough of a piece of crap that you know, you can just throw these on the roof, don't have to really worry about it too much, but you may want to put down one of those mat things if you care about the car. A lot of people like using this gauge display. I don't really like using it because usually it's just kind of on top of the normal software and in the way, but when there's two monitors, it makes it a whole lot more functional. So I'm gonna start it up, the microphone might explode, but you can see it kind of working. And again, this computer is not plugged in. There's a cable from the Holley and then there's a cable from this to the other monitor, and that's all that's plugged in. So there isn't cables all over the place. A little bright, probably can't see the best, but this one's working. This one here's doing the same thing. So again, not the most exciting thing in the world. This thing does have speakers on it and it is not touchscreen, which I actually like. I hate touchscreen computers. So I'm sure there's probably cheaper options. There's probably nicer options. I've even seen some that mount directly onto the laptop itself, which is kind of nice. And you could probably buy a bracket on its own to be able to do that. I honestly just picked this one because it was cheap and it had 20,000 or whatever, just 4 or 5 star reviews, so I figured it was good enough for what I needed it for. But at the end of the day, for less than $100, I think this is an awesome addition for those of you that are trying to take tuning your Holley stuff seriously, and at that price point actually make an awesome gift. So if you're watching this with your wife, you can force her to buy it for you and blame it on me. Or it's totally possible that this video was a complete waste of your time, so sorry about that if that's the case. So there will obviously be a link for this in the description along with my Holley EFI training course if you'd like to learn more about tuning your Holley EFI system yourself.